Good morning, everyone. I pray that you all had a great week last week and you're continuing to have an awesome month of February. I'm really excited to come on and share portions of the book with you because it means so, like, it's so personal to me. Everything that I share is really, really personal, and it's really things that I've battled with and sometimes still battling with, but I'm addressing it. I'm confronting it face to face as I see it show up in my life, because I think that we fight the wrong people most of the times. We fight each other when we let the enemy go free. And I'm really interested in addressing the enemy face to face so that we could live together happily, and do what God called us to do. So today, I'm reading from a chapter called Distorted Identity. And I think so much times in our lives we encounter a lot of our issues because our identity is distorted. So today I wanted to read from a portion from the chapter Distorted Identity, and the heading for this chapter, for this topic, is the deception of self-aggrandizement. Self-aggrandizement. So let me start reading actually. Self-aggrandizement refers to the act or practice of enhancing or exaggerating one's importance, power, or reputation. The Apostle Paul admonishes us in the book of Romans that we ought not to think more of ourselves than we are. Romans 12:3 says, "For by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned." Thinking too much of ourselves and exaggerating our sense of importance comes from a heart of pride. There are multitudes of scripture in the Bible that speaks against pride and promotes humility. This one from Peter was very piercing. 1 Peter 5:5, and it says, "Likewise, you who are younger, be subject to the elders. Clothe yourselves, all of you, with humility towards one another. For God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble." A proud person is God's opposition. It is extremely foolish to believe that we can successfully stand against the omnipotent God that reigns over all of heaven and all of the earth. Therefore, it is wise to stay in God's graces by walking in humility. Still in all, to overcome pride, we must address its root. A narcissistic personality disorder is a mental condition in which people have inflated senses of importance, a need for excessive attention and admiration, troubled relationships, and a lack of empathy to others. But behind a mask of extreme confidence lies a fragile self-esteem that's vulnerable to the slightest criticism. Most cases of extreme pride stems from a deep insecurity. In the stages of my life when I felt the most insecure, I sounded the trumpet on all of my external successes the loudest. I was trying to convince the world to see me even though I couldn't see myself. I was addicted to achievements because it gave me a sense of worth and covered up the aching in my soul. I laid accomplishment upon accomplishment, forming a pyramid effect, yet beneath the surface, my soul was thirsty for fulfillment. A haughty spirit was evident in my life, but it was a cover-up for everything that was lacking on the inside of me. It created a film of protection from people seeing the fragile, scared little girl that was screaming for help on the inside. Confident people are those who lack the desire to self-promote and strengthen their importance. Instead, he carries himself with quiet confidence, knowing who he is, willingly and joyfully executing even the most menial task to accomplish a purpose. Philippians 2:6-9 says, "Who, being in the form of God, did not consider it robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, taking the form of a bondservant, and coming in the likeness of men. And being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death, even the death of the cross. Therefore, God also has highly exalted him and given him the name which is above every name. Christ himself had the power to call 10,000 angels to his rescue, but chose to lay his life down, make himself equal to mere men. He was willing to be stripped of all the accolades of the and kingdom clout and be of no reputation. He was willing to do this because he knew he knew who he was, and the purpose he was called to fulfill. For the sake of love, he readily laid down all his privileges so he could be touched by the feeling of our infirmities. And I, even as I read this, I realized why I was led to read this chapter, because, some things you're battling with internally, and then you read a word and it activates something. And I think it's really a deception, making yourself look bigger than you are. And everything stems from pride. And even last week we discussed that pride comes before the downfall of a man. So again, it's a trick of the enemy. If the enemy wants to bring you down, and I know that after I fill you up with pride, you would then come down, then the simplest task to do is to fill you up with pride. And again, we see that in this case, and it's the deception of self-aggrandizement comes from a place of insecurity, a place of a poor sense of self-worth. You don't know who you are. You're not confident in your sense of identity. You haven't come to peace with who you are, who you truly are. Who does God say I am? What was I created for? What is my purpose? Who am I? Who am I? You will only know who you are when you open the pages of the Bible and let God tell you who you are. Let him tell you who you are. Do not let anyone but Jesus define you. My bishop always says, whosoever defines you will confine you. And it's very powerful. Only that which is written in the pages of the Bible is the definition. If you want to know how something works and who it and what it was made for, the only thing you could go to is the manual, and the Bible is the manual for our lives, and it is the place where we really understand ourselves, our sense of identity, who we are, what we were created for. And when you're battling with all these external things trying to tell us who we are, those are the things that is going on. And the thing is, if we're looking for external fulfillment, the moment that changes, the moment your circumstance change, and the moment your sense of accomplishment that you're accustomed getting change, it would shake you. It would shake the core of who you are, because I no longer have this. So who am I? I no longer have this career. Who am I without it? I no longer have this level of security. Who am I without it? But if the sense of who you are is rooted in who God says you are, that is unshakable. That is unchangeable. There's nothing that could shift you when you understand who God says you are. The storm would come and it would rage. It would strip away everything. But at your core, you will understand, I am what the word says I am. I am who God says I am. I don't get my sense of self-worth based on things that could change. Because from the moment those things change, it shakes you. And we have to be more grounded than that. And you start to feel when you start feeling it is about you again. I remember this testimony is the only thing that I could close everything up with properly, in my opinion. I remember when I was in advertising. First, I was working for the cable company selling cable, and they sent home the entire staff, and then I came back selling advertising, and for the first couple of months I was doing great, and just about the third month things wasn't going good, and they started to call me. They called me into a meeting and told me, this not going to work out. We might be looking to restructure this department. And I was just laid off, and I just got rehired. And I knew that I couldn't, those months I spent unemployed was hard. And I know I couldn't go through that again. So I went and I did this entire, forecast of all the people that I think would purchase from me over a period of time, and how I believe that if you give me 6 months, I would bring in this amount of income. I didn't even know if I could have done it, but I did it. I went home that night and I did this forecast, this projected income over a 6-month period. And after I finished doing it, I didn't even know. I just picked random companies that I thought would buy, and I gave each one of them a dollar value that I would get from them over a period of time that would give them their target at the end of the period. And I took my computer and I lifted it up and I said, God, this is all I have. And I can't be unemployed, but this is all I have. And I'm giving it to you. And I'm putting it in your hands. Could you take it and could you bless it so that I don't have to lose my job? And the next day I took the forecast and I gave it to my manager. And after I gave it to her, she said, okay, I'm going to give you a chance. I'm going to give you 6 months to prove to me that you could do this. And as my witness, after 6 months, I delivered exactly what I said I was going to deliver. And it was not me. It was the prayer that I know without a shadow of a doubt that it was the prayer that I said. And I know that he answered. I know that he answered. And even after that period, I started to just do well, because I said a prayer and God was faithful and God showed up and God answered. And I wasn't in church, I wasn't no Christian, but I believed in God. And I believed that if I asked my Jesus, he would show up. I just had faith. I don't even know why, but back then I just had faith nonetheless. And I asked, and after everything started to work out, over time I started to change my language. I started to say, well, I just work hard, and I started to make it about me, forgetting the prayer that I said, forgetting that it was him that showed up when I needed him to show up, forgetting that in my desperate cry, I cried out and he answered. And now I started to become all prideful that, I am scoring now, I am starring now, is about me. And even from that moment, the Lord had to shift things around to show me, hey, it's not about you. You could work how hard you want, but it have people that working harder than you and don't have the opportunities that you have. Because I just showed my grace. I just showed my mercy. I just showed my favor on you in that moment. And he needed me to know that, hey, it's not about you. It's about me. I answered. Don't ever get deceived to think that it is about you. You are a little man. I am a big God. I am a big God. Honor my word and I will bless you. And the truth is, sometimes when we in a low place and people make us feel small, when our circumstances change, we want to show them that, hey, look, I make it. I know I was like that. I wanted to show people that you thought I couldn't do this and do that. Look, I make it now. But at the end of the day, if that kind of behavior is just going to bring you back down, because it stems from pride, and pride cometh before the downfall of a man, because then God knows that you know what, you still need healing, you still need to be healed from that, because I can't trust you with power, because if this little thing I bless you with, you can't handle it, you can't handle the bigger things. So I need so sometimes he keeps us in a low place so he can get all of that out of us. He can get it out of us and he could work it out of us so that he could trust us with the next level. He could trust us to stand in positions of power and handle it, and not be handling it from a broken place. Because if you're still broken, you handle people from a place of brokenness. You handle situations from a place of brokenness, and instead of instead of bringing healing, you bring more damage. And God needs to clean us before He could trust us with power. And I just think that I am speaking, and I still stand face to face battling things every day. But what I am sure about is that I'm not going to just sit back and let that devil come into my life and think he could drink tea and sit down and we could have a cup of tea and drink together. No, when you show up, I'm going to acknowledge that you are there, and I'm going to kick you out because you do not belong in my life. And the truth is, we sometimes we don't deal with things because we don't confront it, and we don't come face to face and say, hey, you don't belong there. I am looking at my life every day, and I'm trying to analyze, why am I the way that I am? The things that I see in me, where did it come from? Where did it stem from? What is its root? Because until I know its root, I cannot uproot it. But I need to know the root. So I just think that we ought to understand who we are. Understand who we are. Let God tell us who we are. When we see things in us, we need to confront it, come face to face with it, and don't hide it away in some corner, because it's never going to be addressed. And when it's never addressed, it starts to affect our generation, and our little babies coming up have to battle something that we didn't have the strength to fight. And we are responsible. We are responsible to get rid of it so it won't affect the ones that are coming after us. And that is my book reading for today, and I pray that it blessed you, and I hope you continue to have a great week. Bye.